shoulder in attack, this is another simple yet very interesting weapon of the body that possesses a great potential. Our job is to elaborate on the application of this weapon. The shoulder can be a very strong and dynamic weapon, but in general is greatly underdeveloped. This is generally the consequence of neglected body mechanics. What we want to do, as always, is to find and develop the correct body mechanics, as the mechanics are the footings for radical applications. As we move a little deeper into the programme, we should be catching a greater respect and value as regards the importance of level change development. Because these simple changes in level exist, it is vital that we develop each and every body part as a weapon in all the major levels of combat. The shoulder possesses many weird and wonderful applications, but without the mechanical development, it has little, if any, effect at all, so a creative mind is essential. Having the ability to attack the leg with the shoulder is very interesting, and it will provoke many questions, obviously. But I think by now we all know that this is what we want, good questions. It would also be very nice to think that those of you that have been following the programme consistently are really starting to understand how KFM ticks a little. And if you are, then things will start to become much clearer, an awful lot quicker, and it will put a stop to all of those preconceived question-answer scenarios. Here we continue to develop our ability whilst on the ground. Kicking from level 3, the sitting position, is relatively straightforward, but as always, it's the elusive application that we're in search of. Remember, even though we are developing the kick, we must keep the predator alert and active, both physically and emotionally. Notice how Ruben uses the basic mechanics to arrive at level 3. Knee down, sit down, apply the kick, knee up, stand up. Mono escapa is another way in which to stand up. Climbing is one way, but escaping is the other. Again, we must develop clean mechanics in order to retrieve a good application with this movement. And as always, there are lots of practical applications that we can all develop with this strange yet very intriguing movement. Note how there is still a big emphasis on protecting the head. Leaving our chin up for all to see will result in us receiving a very unpleasant exchange of head meets foot. Now we just mix the two technical developments together. There are, as always, many ways and reasons as to why we use and develop these somewhat strange looking movements. Generally, if we're on the ground, it's not by choice, so we need to develop many abilities, which may possibly enable us to survive and even get back to our feet. It's only a simple development, but we must make sure that we continue with our predator, plus a good structure will always stay strong, even under pressure. We can see that the boys are walking through this one quite slowly. That's because Huster is trying to help Ruben with the timing element of this exercise. Although it's pretty easy, it does take a fair amount of training in order to get our weapons working from the ground in a practical and effective manner. Ruben continues to carry the process of development with him. As we can all see by now, there really is a lot of work to develop, and although it's quite basic at these early stages, it doesn't detract from the fact that we need to train hard and consistently, especially if we are to develop the functionality with all of this work. Now Ruben develops the kick and his escape. The monoscalo is another of those simple yet effective things that gives us various possibilities without too much work. The key is to understand the principle, because when the mind is clear about the objective of the work, it will catch and develop the essence with great ease. Hopefully we can all appreciate how important it is to develop all the basic weapons from the 4 major levels within the fight. Justo and myself, still to this day, train all of the basic foundation work on a regular basis. The greater we establish our base functionality will mean that our refinement process becomes much easier. The shoulder is a cool weapon when understood properly. It possesses an array of short and dynamic attacks, which deliver a surprisingly powerful blow. These shots are up at tempo a bit, just so you can see that the shoulder is a valid and very dangerous weapon when executed with intent. Now we slow things down again, so that we can see the next progression properly. We use the shoulder as an attack, plus it's also the driving force behind the takedown. Developing the takedowns in the street is an interesting study. We need to find and develop possibilities that are raw and rugged, yet still have a solid and effective foundation, which is generally the consequence of good solid mechanics. In this specific development of the penso hombro attack, we see Justo attacking the ribs. The shoulders, as with most weapons of the body, possess their own unique flavour and delivery system. The shoulders obviously have their limitations, but nevertheless are a formidable close quarter weapon. The midline takedown is a simple walkthrough, but when supported by the penso hombro attack and the garamono, the simple walkthrough proves to be quite effective. Having the ability to connect all the simple elements that we learn in the end is quite awesome, as great ability is usually the consequence. No big secrets, just good solid study and investigation. In this next shot, we see Justo showing how to develop the shoulder on the low line. It feels a bit strange at first, but give it time. This will probably provoke a few more questions, which is always the objective, as it's the questions that make us look further and deeper. We need to be careful when developing the low line attack, as our objective is to attack the leg once it's straightened. The motion that we use is similar to that of a guillotine, dropping the entire weight of the body through the shoulder. Once nailed, it's a wicked attack and opens a great area of study. Learning to destroy the ground creates a tornado of frustrations and what-ifs, but the first thing we need to do is to understand the essence of the timing beats. Our first priority is to exploit the before timing. If we miss this opportunity, we must then try to exploit the counter or the during timing beat. After timing is where the real problems start. If we do arrive at the after timing beat, this basically means the opponent has great placement, and we now need to try and escape. Hence, this is the last place we ever want to be. Now we start connecting all the dots again. As we have said many times before, and will continue to do so, if we don't develop our ability to connect the simple physical mechanical movements and then charge them emotionally, we will never really possess what we think we may. This kind of free play is great at developing habitual training. If we just train what we actually want to develop, then we'll probably get really good at doing it. The problems start when we get bent messages and confused. For example, if you want to get big biceps, you don't do leg squats, you do bicep curls. The elbow really is a formidable weapon, It has vast potentials in all areas, not just close quarters. The elbow can be used to destroy most incoming attacks, whether they be kicks, knees, punches, grabs, etc, etc. By continually adding a new piece of information to our repertoire each week, our growth level will be constant and productive. I know we all want everything now, that's normal. Even I want to understand everything now, but it's just not possible. We need to study, investigate and experiment with everything. This next exercise sees Husto destroying the kick. We have spoken about this a few times in the past, and you should be catching more ability with this now. Nothing is ever watertight. There is always a chance that something backfires and we lose. This is the reality. Nothing is guaranteed to function 100%, especially when we are in a critical situation. Only the instinct can give the real answer. But in saying that, if we are training and investigating every day, then we will gain very interesting attributes and abilities. These abilities are not common in the average person, and when driven by an animalistic instinct, well, interesting is definitely one way of describing it. In the next 4 shots we can see all the work from this class in a technical flow format. There's actually quite a lot of things kicking off now, so we need to pay attention and make sure we catch all of the work properly. Making sure we don't get lost or oversee any of the work is vital. Skipping pieces of the work creates weak links, and weak links usually give way under pressure, so make sure that every link is forged, strong and solid. If you cut corners, you're only cheating yourself. And remember, we are not interested in the what ifs or yeah but. We are interested in discovering all the hows and whys. Negative and critical thinking will reflect accordingly, giving only negative consequences. None of us want that. We want to understand if something is really possible or not. And as with all things, unless we go in search of the answer, we'll probably never find one. Putting all this work into the predator mix starts to get very interesting now, but we must still try and stay within the work at hand. Don't add anything that's not relevant and don't miss anything important. Being able to free play like this without damaging each other is quite a skill. It also means you can train like this every day, meaning that you get plenty of flying hours, as they say. And we need lots of time served hours. Playing in this kind of scenario training to keep the instinct alive and flowing. Being able to free play like this without damaging each other is quite a skill. It also means you can train like this every day, meaning that you can get plenty of flying hours, as they say. And we need lots of time served hours, playing in this kind of scenario training to keep the instinct alive and flowing. Little by little, all of these simple things that we are developing really will become instinctive, and not just another collection of new techniques with no real substance or depth to them. Somebody asked me the other day if KFM has any kind of katas. Interesting question, I know. Well, as always, it depends on what our interpretation of a kata is. For all of us here at KFM, I suppose the predator exercise is our equivalent of a kata, so to speak. Because this is where we spend most of our time, trying to understand how the fighting applications connect together. It's also where we learn how to function, or not, as the case may be. We learn about all the associated problems with the particular scenarios, and it never lets us have the pleasure of being complacent. There's just too much going on at any one time. Plus each and every movement is different, meaning that we never really know what's going to happen next. This keeps our senses on high alert and the adrenaline flowing. Now the instinct is in play. And when we play in this action-reaction zone, well, we start to absorb the essence of KFM.